Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. These mics are hot, and so are we. We are currently beaming from Site-42. Ladies and gentlemen of the Foundation staff, non-ladies and non-gentlemen of the Foundation staff, whatever the hell you are, someone tell us that you can hear us. We are digitizing to your encrypted YouTube accounts. Your encrypted YouTube account, Steven. Not your civilian one. Again, last week. Okay, so we are receiving signal. We are going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Foundation staff. This is Sherman, but you can call me Sherm. Welcome to another Anomalous Broadcast from Site-42. For those of you unfamiliar with our show, the rundown goes like this. Number 1, I read you an SCP document. Letter B, I open up the floor to the community to discuss what we've been reading. We're often visited by SCP authors, staff, and fans, and if we're particularly lucky, the author of the article themselves shows up to share some insight. Remember that if you'd like to join the conversation yourself, I will be monitoring the chat in between chapters and answering questions, as will my guest. Well, this isn't really long enough to check in between chapters, but I will be peeking in maybe while the author is reading, because we do have an author guest tonight. Yes, Etoile, I did get a haircut. It is very short. Katie, my girlfriend, is a dog groomer. I am ready for Westminster. Rawr. And so, without further ado, allow me to introduce tonight's guest, Calibri Bold. Click, click, click. Hello.
Hello. I think it's working. It's a bit delayed for me.
Yes. From computer to YouTube is about a 30-second delay. So
nice.
Anything you see in the YouTube chat, someone's waited 30 seconds to ask that.
Awesome. I'm down to wait 30 seconds. Good things come to those who wait and all.
Exactly. Tonight's article that we are reading is SCP-4456-D, titled, one of my new favorite titles for a story, No One Expects the Spanish Decommission. I'm so pleased. I'm so happy. Katie is so mad, but I am so happy. Cal, do you have any preface you want to give us about this story before we get into it?
Not really, as far as I know. I guess there is any sort of previous context anyone will need is going to be basically just that would require a bunch of stuff ahead of time to actually do.
And we have some good discussion following what we're talking about, so I think we'll have a good after show for that. How about I'll start reading and I'll say tag when you want you to pick up. Sound good?
All right.
All right, here we go. Item number, SCP-4456-D. Level 1 classified. Containment class, decommissioned. Note, this here is a photo of SCP-4456-D during initial recovery and investigation. Cal, take it away.
All right. Special containment procedures archived. These don't apply anymore. SCP-4456 is contained in a Size 4 Anomalous Aquatic Vehicle Storage Unit in Site-45. After every reproduction incident, the new SCP-4456 instance is to be provided with 2,500 pounds of pure silver. Tag.
Description. SCP-4456 is description. SCP-4456. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen because I was checking the chat. Let me fix all this. Here we go. Description. Archived. SCP-4456 is an unmanned 16th century Spanish galleon named Soy mi amante, translated as I am my lover. In terms of appearance, SCP-4456 is no different from ships of its model during the 1500s. Every 4 to 6 days, an exact copy of SCP-4456 is generated in the nearest area of water that can hold her. If the new SCP-4456 instance is ever provided with approximately $519,000 in gold, silver, or gemstones, footnote, the equivalent value of approximately 2,500 pounds of silver, she will instantly disappear. If an SCP-4456 instance is not supplied with sufficient resources within 24 hours of manifestation, she will animate and become hostile, attempting to breach containment via ramming and onboard cannons. Addendum 4456.1. During investigation into SCP-4456's origins, Foundation researchers discovered the following document dating to circa 1500 CE. Document 4456-A. Note, the following document has been translated from Spanish and is going to have a terrible Antonio Banderas impersonation. My queen, I am filled with grief to report that the Soy Miamante has been struck down by unknown forces. She and her crew will be remembered as the mighty breadbasket of our holy kingdom. However, I must express my concern toward its former nature. Her valiant crew would not speak of where they obtained their bounty. We only know that it carried much of it on its returns. I fear her destruction may be the harbinger of some great and unknown force, which has tarried too long in its acceptance of our thievery. Perhaps even mightier forces are at play here, for it seems that no mortal entity could reduce such a mighty vessel as the Soy Miamante to mere ash in moments. May we pray that God has not taken wrath upon us, and that we continue to prosper under his grace. Your humble servant, Dante. Tag.
First of all, I wanted to compliment your accent just before we continue. That was some of the most beautiful reading I've ever had the privilege of listening to. Well done.
That was one of my better accents. I have a lot of bad ones. That one's not bad.
That was I don't know. That was a very good accent. That's all I can say about it. 10 out of 10 would want you to accent again.
Well, thank you.
All right. Addendum 4456.2. To determine where items placed on board SCP-4456 would go, 10 silver coins designed as exact copies were created and installed with microtrackers placed within each coin. After the coins had been placed aboard an SCP-4456 instance, the tracking receiver was activated and immediately detected all Foundation coins in the Museo Nacional del Prado. I can't even read my own typing. Investigation revealed that the museum had carried the coins since 1827. Further research by the Anomalous Chronology Department found that every time a new SCP-4456 instance is provided with sufficient resources to disappear, the Spanish government's wealth would be retroactively increased by the value of the resources placed aboard the instance. While the exact repercussions of Foundation actions are inconclusive, it is widely speculated that the Foundation may have been at least partially responsible for Spain's price revolution, an economic recession during the 16th and 17th centuries, theorized to have been caused by the importation of silver from the Americas. Due to the large amount of money lost to SCP-4456, as well as a potential violation of laws outlined in the FIR Convention, which is the Foundation International Relations Conventions, carries guidelines for Foundation's interactions with sovereign nations, including in most cases outlawing donations to other nations unrelated to anomalous containment. SCP-4456 is proposed for decommissioning, and that is a very large footnote. Okay.
I did say this is footnote 5, which we will talk about after the article is complete, because it's part of the discussion.
Should I leave out footnote 5 then?
Yeah, let's save that one for the end.
All right, that one's a big one. All right, the following proposal was submitted to the newly created Decommissioning Department. Tag.
All right. Decommissioning Proposal 4456. SCP Object Decommissioning Proposal Form. Item number, SCP-4456. Object Class, Keter. Head Researcher, Dr. C. Bold. Supporting Personnel, Asterisk, must be of Level 3 clearance or higher. Dr. D. Eon, representing Anomalous Chronology Department. A. Farrell, representing Foundation Treasury and Finances Department. Dr. R. Regis, representing Foundation Legal Department. Please check off or fill in the applicable boxes regarding the reasons for submitting your proposal. Excessively high risk of lifted veil scenario. Check. Excessive danger. No check. Ability to decom a polygon class object. No check. Expense. Check. Ethical concerns over necessary containment. No check. Legal concerns. Check-a-rooning. High risk of K-class scenario. If so, please state which type or types. No check. Other. Please state. Yes check. Temporal phenomena caused by causality paradox, with unknown and most likely undesirable effects. Dr. D. Eon. Summary. The sheer cost of containing SCP-4456, combined with the legal ramifications of doing so, lends continued containment inordinately expensive and inefficient. Additionally, failure to contain the object may result in exponential duplication on her part, quickly becoming unmanageable and eventually noticeable. Finally, we already know that SCP-4456 will be destroyed eventually, according to document 4456-A, and that if it is not destroyed, it may result in some form of causality paradox. Signed, Dr. C. Bold. Addendum 4456.3. SCP-4456 was approved for decommissioning. The decommissioning consisted of SCP-4456 being incinerated completely. Any remains in the form of ash or char spontaneously disappeared. Decommissioning of SCP-4456-D was officially declared a success. The end!
Well done.
I like that little article. I think it comes in, it does its job, and it leaves. Nothing crazy, nothing flowery, not too much stuff. It did it. It had its task. Give us a reason feasibly for decommissioning. It did it. I believe it. Good.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad it, was justified in everything that it did anyway.
Oh, and just in case everyone's not paying attention, you are always welcome to go onto the wiki if you're a member and upvote these. I just added my upvote, bringing it to plus 190. So it is 10 away from 200. That's kind of awesome.
Oh, thank you. Very kind.
So, tell us about the genesis of this idea for you.
Okay. This is weird because it came from like the tiniest ever little detail in another article. I don't remember the name of it. So, okay. Dang, I need to go like way back in the day. So, back in the day, you know about decommissioning. It's like way back in the early days of the site, right?
Let's give a history for the viewers who are not familiar.
Basically, back when the site was old and it was like the the Wild West, I guess. I don't know. They just said
freshly off of 4chan days.
Yeah. That's it. They had rules and stuff. They were good at what they did, but there was just other stuff. Anyway, there was a thing called decommission, which was actually an out-of-universe thing, where basically they would take really, really bad articles, and they would say, "All right, well, we don't like you. You suck." And so instead of like just straight up deleting it like normal, they would put it on a big wall of shame as an example of how not to do things. Which, like, I think that sounds like a bad idea already. I don't know. I wasn't there at the time.
Morally speaking, you're not going to encourage new writers to get better by putting them on a wall of shame so much.
Yeah, I know. That's their thing. I am not going to. I know. I wasn't around for that time. Maybe there were different things. I feel a little bit bad, but Anyway, so the general idea with it was. Basically just put it on a wall of shame and stuff like that. And then they would reclassify it as decommissioned, the object class decommissioned, and then they would, and then one of the senior staff would write a tale using their author avatar or self-insert or whatever about how the object was destroyed. So, this whole thing, I found out about all this, and this whole thing started with the tale actually that was linked from, I think it's SCP-239. I think that's the one. Basically, it's a witch girl. She's very famous. She's the one that can basically bend reality with her mind and whatnot. And so I don't know 100% about the history involving this, but from what I understand was Clef, like the author Clef, decided, okay, this needs to be decommissioned. It's just this overpowered humanoid thing, and we need to get rid of it. And the author Kondraki said he didn't want that. And he said, like, if Clef tried to write a tale about where he killed 239, then Kondraki's author avatar would try and stop him. So basically, it resulted in what is sort of like a partial decommissioning of 239. Where it ended up with, which was basically sort of a fight between Clef and Kondraki, the two characters. in trying to in whether or not they'll end up killing 239, decommissioning her. In the end, she's alive, I think, from what I recall the tale. But that tail also acted as a decommissioning for a second object. I don't remember which decommissioned SCP it was, but it was there was this very small note in it that really took off this whole thing, which was basically Clef comes across this humanoid. It's basically just a kid who can control fire, and it's this fiery things and whatnot, and basically he was released by Kondraki to try and stop Clef, and Clef kills him. And the whole thing started because inside the thing, it's sort of, in some ways, it's told like a log, sort of. So in the log of the events, they reclassify it. The moment he shoots the character, it's given the decommissioned status with the -D at the end. And I thought, that's a cool little, note at the end and stuff like that. But then it got me thinking, like, all of decommissioning is just like a staff thing for out of universe stuff, right? And but in here they're saying like it has an in-universe definition. So what is the in-universe definition? And I tried asking around, I tried looking around, there wasn't really anything done with it. And so I was like, well, it's gotta mean something, I guess. What does it mean? And that was the big mystery. And I was like, I'm gonna solve this mystery. And dang, this is turning into a long story. But
and we're learning from it.
Yay! It's so much history. The history that I wasn't even around for. I'm just the guy who's telling it, probably sounding like a jerk while I do so. Like, hey, look at these guys being jerks. Like, haha. But yeah. Anyway, this is me being awful.
Aren't we all?
Anyway, well, we all are awful to some degree. I think this says a lot about society, but we're not here to talk about society. Maybe we are. I don't know. We can talk.
We live in a society.
We do live in a society. That's a society we live in, and we have the SCP society that we also live in.
But it looks like your final footnote number 5 kind of wraps up very neatly what you discovered or figured out, right?
Sort of. So I didn't actually find a definition, and the closest one I could come up with was basically just it was a Foundation deliberately destroying object. So I wanted to just sort of explore that, basically, and see, like, all right, if it has a definition in universe, I want to write an article about that, but based solely around its in-universe definition, basically. And I think it had been played across a couple times. I know there's Stormbreast SCP-001-D, which is a very good article, and I would totally recommend it. There's also a couple other small tales about decommissioned SCPs and whatnot, but they don't really touch on the definitions and semantics of it and whatnot. So basically, I basically just sought out to write an SCP where that was deliberately destroyed, and there were a couple things I wanted to do with it. Number one, I wanted to obviously define the class somewhat, and funnily enough, this is mostly just meant to be a one-off thing. Honestly, it was just meant to be like, okay, cool. I found out what this means and stuff, but it grew from there, I guess, and it's expanded to that. But anyway, there were a couple other things I wanted to do with it. First of all, a lot of the SCPs you get, especially when you're dealing with new authors and stuff like that, is just big scary monsters. It's like and you want and they have to kill it, of course, because big scary monster, 682, all that, and obviously it isn't just a new author's thing. It's the natural progression. Like, obviously the most dangerous stuff is the stuff you're going to want to kill off.
Funny tangent from what Sumerian was talking about, I think it was this week or last week on his show, was that the Infographics show did a video about SCP, but just the framing of the Foundation from outside the group, from outside the fandom, seems to be, number one, we have horror monsters, and number two, we want to kill them somehow. And so his entire video was how the Infographics channel kept trying to justify destroying SCPs that we're not trying to destroy. We're trying to keep them in because we're going to study them and things.
All right, and I did watch that, actually, and And I will say, like, this isn't like an attempt to become the Destroy Foundation. If anything, this is me just trying to find a very new edge case that isn't just like big scary thing that we have to get rid of. And you can and like from reading the article, it's a giant ship. At best, it's just going to shoot you with cans and whatnot. But in all honesty, it's not this big world-ending thing. But there are a couple of issues with containing it. It costs a lot of money. It breaks a bunch of trees the Foundation has. I sort of wanted to cover those things, and you can actually see in the decommissioning proposal where it has all those checklists and stuff, where it isn't just like oh, it's very dangerous or it's an appalling class or whatever. There's also like ethical concerns over how it should be contained, like the legal concerns, expense, etc., etc. And I wanted to just sort of get into that a little bit more. Because
a lot of people neglect the idea. A lot of people come into the Foundation and write their stories as if they're some giant, endless, financially infinite organization who can just contain anything. And I actually like stories where they are not this all-powerful organization. There are rules they have to follow. There are financial concerns. There are resources. And this costs a lot of money to contain. It's a pretty good reason to get rid of it if it's not going to blow up the world, if we do. And it's costing us several $100,000 every time it does this.
Mm-hmm. And so like I said, it's just sort of my intention to write something that needs to be destroyed fundamentally, but it isn't like a big world destroying engine or anything like that. It is just a thing that's very hard to contain. And it's also sort of inspired by, in a way, like because at the time I was getting very big into like object classes and stuff like that, and esoteric classes. I thought, this is cool stuff. I want to write more esoteric class stuff. I've matured by now, of course. I recognize I have put on my monocle and realized, yes, object classes, they're less relevant and whatnot, But anyway, that's just me. But anyway, point is, I like the idea of how the object class doesn't cover danger so much, and they use that in like the guide to object classes, where they say like Keter can just be like a cat that teleports anywhere. It's a Keter because it's hard to contain and whatnot. Whereas a button that destroys the world when pressed is just a safe class object because you can stick it in a box and forget about it for the rest of eternity. So I was trying to touch on that as well, sort of, where it was just danger and where it was a difference between danger and containability, if that makes sense.
Cool. I had two questions about the article right now, like in a critique mindset. Mm-hmm. So my first one is that early on, let's go up. Somewhere in every Spanish galleon, blah blah blah, instance. There's a couple times in the containment document where you do refer to the ship as her in the colloquial fashion. Was that intentional rather than using an it like technical document? So that's fine because it originally was it. And so it's not really, it's just a small thing. But I guess we were talking about at one point in chat, I guess, where we were all talking about, like, I guess, the usage of her in ships. And if you go on Wikipedia, actually, they refer to ships as her and she and whatnot. I just thought that was a cool little tidbit, so I added it. It really wasn't like a major detail or anything. I just thought that's a little cool little, I guess, thing, that how people refer to it and whatnot. Especially since it seems to be at least somewhat formal. Like other documentation uses it and stuff like that. And it was never meant to be a really big thing. And I figured if people don't like it, I'll remove it or whatever. But I thought it was just a fun little thing. Yeah, it's kosher with me. I just wanted to confirm. Second question I had about the article, and this is just something that I thought of while we were discussing good reasons to decommission something. I realized something I thought of was a good reason to allow a decommission. Yes, we can't contain it easily. Yes, it has a reason to destroy the world, or maybe, one reason or another. Another reason I thought of was that containing it, maybe we wouldn't allow a decommission if there was still something more to learn from the thing, if we were studying it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to give you this as an idea you can add or not add because the article's at plus 190 anyways. But something where a small little addendum where they say, these are things that we have learned from it in study, and we don't think there's any more to be found.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a really good point. And that's one of the reasons, like, people would. That's one of the reasons people often cite when they say, like, this is why Foundation doesn't destroy things, is there's so much to learn. And I think that's a very good point. I sort of left it open-ended on this because, and that's sort of where I get into the decommissioning department actually with this, because I slowly wanted to turn it into something, I guess, a little bit bigger. I actually wrote a related tale for it called Mission Decommission. It was deleted at first, but I rewrote it fairly recently, and it's sitting pretty well at the moment.
Nice. Let's see, was there something? And anyways, if you don't use it, it just makes it a good use for a future tale or a future SCP. Yeah. I'm imagining in my head now, like, an SCP, but it's also like Men in Black, where they show you that this is the thing that we have, it's anomalous, but it does this, this, and this, and it also fixes your VCR clock for you.
Mm-hmm.
Could be something for future works. Take it, writers. Take the idea and run with it.
I want to write a VCR clock. What is a VCR clock? I'm young and dumb, and I don't know VCR clocks. I assume.
No, my millennial is showing. My millennial is showing.
You're old. You're old now. You're not even a millennial. Okay, just accept it. You're a boomer now. You're older than me. You're a boomer now. You gotta start yelling at kids to get off your lawn, I guess.
My lawn.
Gotta talk about the good old days when SCPs were just cool things that did things and whatnot.
All right, for people who are thinking about writing SCP articles, maybe haven't before, how was your critique process for this? Did it change radically from inception to current form? How'd it go?
It was... So it was actually, I combined two ideas with this, where I wanted to explore decommissioning and whatnot, but originally I wasn't even focusing on that at all, and it was emerging two ideas, because the other idea was a warship that would asexually reproduce.
Okay.
That's it. It didn't sexually reproduce, mind you. I'm not in the mood for NSFW stuff, of course, but it would instead just be like, hey, it's alive, and it would duplicate itself. I thought, that is, well, like, what would happen with that, for starters? And second of all, like, that could very quickly become a problem. And it was just an old idea I had sitting around there, that when I started up this new project, I decided that would be a cool thing to throw in there. Beyond that, the critique process, it wasn't really, there wasn't anything super notable about it, I suppose. I think one of the biggest changes I made was it was originally just mainly meant to explore the decommissioning process and whatnot. But after some critique, I added in some more stuff like the document with Dante and whatnot, and just adding in a bit more of an actual story beyond just exploring the concept, which actually helped me out really well. A lot of people have said they're just somewhat impartial to the decommissioning thing, but they really liked. Particularly the stuff like how the SCP Foundation accidentally caused the Spanish economic recession and whatnot. So in the end, it was a good gamble that paid off in regards to critique. But beyond that, it was fairly standard. I don't think much particularly changed. I think one big thing was the proposal, actually, where I wrote out like a big document to cover everything and basically just to get into it.
Sweetness. Again, for people who are always, there's a lot of people out there who are like, I could never write an SCP. I'm not that good, blah, 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 blah. And my thought process is, I mean, all of us are pretty much hobbyists. We're not like authors or anything. Well, some people are. Are you a writer outside of the wiki, or is this like the only place you do writing stuff?
This is really the only place I'm doing writing at the moment. I'm going to college, actually, and I'm going to be studying creative writing and whatnot, and getting into that. But right now, the wiki is mainly just the only place that I do writing, which is honestly, I think, is a nice place to start with amateur writing, because it's at the same time, like, it's not like this very firm, hard thing, but you still have an actual critique process, a process of like learning what makes things work and whatnot. Instead of just allowing you to put in what you do and whatnot.
It is a unique kind of framing. There's not a lot of groups out there where you get this level of like everyone critiques each other's work, everyone's trying to make the best work. Most of the people aren't going to be a dick to you about it, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My standard final question for the interview. What is your favorite or multiple favorite SCP articles or tales on the wiki that are not your own work?
Oh dear, okay.
Pimp someone else's articles.
No, only mine. This is my day.
Curses.
But in all seriousness, I can't really think of a favorite, honestly. But there are a lot of authors in particular I respect. And I can't really think of a favorite. If I had to recommend like an author, I think I would say Dr. Akamoto. If any of you are unfamiliar with his work, he started up the Ulysses B. Donkman. He does a lot of all around stuff, but he is generally like a very good author, who I know, and he's a really cool guy as well. Just in general, like I can't really say like I pinned down like a certain like he contributes to like this one giant overarching thing or part of the wiki, but he is just like an all around a very good author and is good in all sorts of things. Yeah.
I have a couple of those. Like for the longest time when I was doing these SCP readings for the regular show, I would come across articles I like, and at the bottom I would always see, for a while it was Hippo, when Hippo was more active. Then it was Pepper's Ghost for a while when he came back, and now it's Tanhoney riding up a storm in Series 6 right now.
Oh yeah, Tanhoney is just like, you can't avoid him by this point. He's
like the Hamilton of Series 5.
I was going to say he's like the Starbucks of the wiki, if anything. Like, you can't go anywhere, you just turn around, boom, Tanhoney. Oh, and you're like, guess I just have to live with the fact that Tanhoney's everywhere.
And there's a Tanhoney article on this corner, and you walk out the doors, and there's a Tanhoney article on the other corner!
He's gonna overtake Rogue as well, like, so fast. DJ Cactus, probably, you know what I mean? Like, both of them, they still contribute a lot, but, not as much. And Tanner's just like, let me just come on in here. And just take everybody down. But yeah, he does do a lot of stuff, which is fine, because, like, I knew about him, and just, like, all of a sudden, especially, like, after the 5,000 contest, I'd all of a sudden just see, like, a lot of his work, stuff like that, and be like, whoa, this guy's doing a lot. I think between him, Dr. Akamoto, and Popsioke, I think they will all have Series 6 filled up before the end of the year.
And bonus pimping, since we're talking about him, remember Tanhoney has his own YouTube channel, if you're not signed up for that, where he talks about writing stuff and writes SCPs, like Twitch writes SCP, which the wiki did on the official Twitch that I didn't know they had as well. We're getting very internet now.
Yeah, they have on the sidebar now, they have the little Twitch logo that you can click on, because now they have like 7 outlets for social media, and I guess SCP staff is just like, hey, now we're on the internet now, guys. We were already on the internet, but now we're on the internet more.
Spread our tendrils everywhere.
Exactly. Pretty soon, it's like what I was saying about Starbucks. Like Starbucks is the thing that's everywhere in America. And America is a thing that's that's just like in everywhere else, I guess. I don't know. I'm not great with metaphors, but I guess people are going to be like, oh hey, there's the SCP wiki. So it's right there. I couldn't avoid it. I was watching a totally different guy the other day. Turns out he's got SCP animation thing going on too. I'm like, well, okay, I guess this guy's doing something too. Infographics is doing it, like everyone's doing it. It's the new big thing, I guess, which is obvious, which is totally not me just acting like it's a big. I don't know, man. I don't do the internet.
I don't know, man. There's just so much. There's just so much. And every year we're getting a little more mainstream, where much to the chagrin of some and the joy of others, it's becoming more of a mainstream thing to know what the SCP Wiki is.
Yep. Dang, I remember when Markiplier did the video talking about the SCP legal issues, and then like 3 days later, because like everyone's apps take like 1 to 3 days to process. 3 days later, all of a sudden, there's just this massive surge of people, and we're like, okay, that's a lot of people, and I guess we're a thing now. I think we were already a thing, honestly. I think we've been around for a long time. I haven't. I've been here less than a year. I'm not qualified to talk about this stuff or anything.
Have you read the History of the World essay?
I have read the History of the World essays, actually. Those are very good.
If you haven't seen Roge's History of the World essays, go read those, because they're very useful to understanding the site history, so that you can understand the trends and where things have gone and where things are going.
And because I don't know, I honestly don't know much about it. I was just like, I know this one thing, and not even that well. I just found out, I'm like, gonna roll with it. Okay, this is my thing now.
Any final questions, statements? Questions. You can ask the audience questions. Any final thing you want to say to the audience before we sign off for the night?
Brush your teeth, you guys, okay? Keep good hygiene, all right? Take showers as well. Those are very good things. I assume most of you are doing it, but for those of you who aren't, please do that, okay? I think that's the best advice I can give you guys, honestly.
Floss your teeth and wash your damn hands. There's a pandemic.
Flossing. Okay.
Oh my god, personal story. I've been doing Invisalign for the last 8 months. And
really?
So to do Invisalign, you have to floss before you put them back in. Otherwise, you get major cavities.
Oh, no.
And so I'm used to flossing 3 times a day now, and so I've still kept the habit. But, God, the things that come out of your teeth when you floss that you did not know were there. Because I was a no flosser before, and now perma-flosser. Ugh! Oh, the horror! Also, I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. Are you ready? In case you didn't know, if you don't put soap on your finger and stick it in your belly button, you probably have a stinky-ass belly button. Put your finger in your belly button right now and sniff it. If it stinks, wash your belly button.
All right, guys,
let me just note for the day. Wash your damn belly button.
All right, let me really quickly go do that. Let's do this. Wash it. Let's have I think we can take from SCP stuff just for a moment before we keep going. Just like have a little belly button washing party. Honestly, just take a moment where we all wash our belly buttons together. A really great way to bond.
It'll be a very quiet, dignified ceremony. All right, I'm signing us off before this gets any stupider. Cal, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. It was really enjoyable. I had a great time.
I'll talk to you after the sign-off for the post-show.
All right.
Signing off. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to our show for idiots, apparently. Hosted by me, the king and most idiot of all. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Cal, Calibri Bold, for joining us and talking about your article. If you haven't upvoted the article, go upvote it if you liked it. If you like the stream, make sure you like it and subscribe and hit the bell. Cody Ingram, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. I wonder if that was for the overall stream, the Antonio Banderas accent, or the wonderful hygiene advice. Hit the bell, subscribe, share the stream, tell your friends, buy a sticker or a t-shirt, become a patron, all that stuff. And we will see you at our next Anomalous Broadcast from Site-42. And signing off.